you. Here is Ali.
Thank you so much, Jessie, for the intro. So welcome, everybody. This is a 30-minute program on lower back pain today, and it is going to be mostly movement-based. So if you are just hopping on, all you need today is space to lie down. You can use a yoga mat, a beach towel, or a blanket. Even just soft carpet works well. And I want to encourage you guys, this class is for you, and this class is for you to feel good. So I provide a bunch of modifications, a couple of challenges throughout the class. Please take what feels right for your body. Everybody's back is a little bit different, so do listen to your body, take what feels right, and if you need to scale it back and take a little rest, that's totally fine. That being said, we're going to get through a little bit of movement. We'll talk very, very briefly about ergonomics, and then I will save some time for questions at the end. So if at any point you have a question, write it to me in the chat. I'm going to address them all at the end. So I'm excited to get started. Let's all find a spot on our mat, and you're going to just lie down onto your back. If you know when you lie down, you are more comfortable having a small pillow behind your head, go ahead and grab that right now. I want you guys to find a comfortable position. If having your legs straight right away feels like a lot of pressure on your lower back, go ahead and bend your knees, let your feet rest down flat and comfortable. And just allow yourselves to settle in. I know we have people calling in from a bunch of time zones, so maybe it's later in your afternoon, maybe it's quite early for you, but just take a moment to settle into the mat and let your body melt down. So take a moment to start to scan your body, noticing any spots of tension, any differences from side to side, any places of heaviness through your body, and start that scan from the very crown of your head all the way down your body to the tips of your toes. And just notice how the body feels. There's really no right or wrong. We're just starting our class, but just notice it for now. And as you start to tune your attention into how your body is feeling, try and visualize your breath. And our breath is actually quite important for our lower backs and the health of our lower back. So I encourage you guys to visualize that breath and see if you can send it down a little bit lower into your belly, or maybe even wide out to the side in our rib cage. So you can think of your lungs like little balloons inside your body that are actively inflating and deflating. And you can use that active inflation and deflation to create space and to create stretch within your lower spine, within your rib cage and abdominal cavity. So I'm going to join you guys down on the mat for just a moment. We're going to take another big breath in and big breath out. And then if your legs are all the way extended, go ahead and bend both of your knees, planting your feet flat on the floor, about hip distance apart. We're going to start with the first gentle movement of our lower spine with a pelvic tilt. So what that is gently rocking your tailbone back towards your nose and then letting it unravel, creating space under your low back. So you're closing the space under your low back and opening that space under your low back. This might start feeling quite stiff, and that's okay. It's the first movement we're doing for our lower back. Gently move within your spine's comfortable range of motion, and hopefully as you start to rock front to back, you feel that your range of motion increases just slightly. Now, if you've been taking my class over the past couple of weeks, you've done this one with me before. If you want to try and add on to this movement a little bit, go ahead and turn that into a pelvic circle. So you're going to rock around in circles. Maybe we start in the clockwise direction. You're still closing that space under your low back and then opening that space, but adding in a circular component. And if you're trying those circles, go ahead and rock in the opposite direction, maybe counterclockwise now. And again, it's still gentle, it shouldn't be painful. We're just exploring our spine's movement, letting your breath be natural here. And we'll try 2 more. And last time, and settle somewhere right in the middle. We're going to start to introduce rotation now by bringing our feet together arms down by our side, and gently rocking our legs side to side. So you want to keep your knees together because we are going to try a little variation on this one today. And allow your legs to rock only as far as you can go without any pressure or pain in your lower back. And you will allow your hips to lift here, but your shoulders should stay down on the mat. And it's normal to notice a difference from side to side. Just notice it for now. We're going to try about 4 more like this and then change it up just a little bit. Good, guys. Last 2. And last time, settle somewhere right in the middle. Now go ahead and separate your feet. So you want your feet to go a little bit wider than the width of your hip. So if you have a yoga mat, using the edges of your mat or your towel is a good marker. Once you're there, we're going to do that same thing. We're going to rock side to side. But you'll notice that this feels quite different. This is actually a little bit more rotation for our hips than our lower back. But our hips and our lower back really work closely together. And sometimes restriction in one or the other can give us pain that is related to the opposite joint. So we'll just gently rock side to side here. Shoulders are still heavy on the mat. We'll do 2 more. Good, guys. And one more time here, and settle somewhere right in the middle. Go ahead and walk those feet back into your true hip distance apart, and then walk your heels close enough to your bottom that you can touch your heel with your fingertips. We're going to prepare for our first strengthening exercise, which is bridging, and that's an exercise for our glutes, our hip muscles, or our bottom muscles. So pressing down into your feet with your arms down by your side, lift your hips up into a bridge position. Now, if you feel lower back soreness here right off the bat, you want to think about drawing your rib cage down towards the mat, connecting your ribs to your hips. You can also take your hands right to the butt muscles. Make sure that that is what's working. That should be the mover for this exercise. If you're not sure, go ahead and check in. And then we're going to slowly start to lower the hips down and lift the hips up. So just breathe at a comfortable pace here. I'm not going to cue you guys on the right or wrong way to breathe. Just make sure you are breathing. The wrong way to breathe here would be to hold your breath. So we're gently lifting the hips up and down. You can even keep your hands on those glute muscles to make sure that they are the ones that are working. So if this is too much for your lower back, you're just going to hold that bridge and just practice getting comfortable in this position. We're going to try about 5 more, and I want to take a quick peek at everybody's form. So I'm going to come up to the camera here. You guys look tremendous. Excellent. Nice, Jane. Willie, draw your front ribs down a little bit, letting your lower back flatten. Good. 2 more here. That's it. Nice, Pamela. Good. And last time, go ahead and drop your hips down. Take a quick rest. We're going to try a second variation on that bridge. And I invite you guys all to try this. But if for some reason it feels like too much, come back to that simple bridge we started with. So this time, walk your feet a little bit wider than the mat again. This time, turning your heels together, toes apart, so your feet go in sort of a wide V position. Pushing down into your feet, lift the hips into that bridge once again. Now in this wide position, often we roll to the outside of our feet. I want you to push underneath your big toe, still drawing the ribs down, feeling the work in the glute muscles. And we're just going to hold this bridge position. Slowly try and open and close the knees, just a tiny bit. And as you open and close, you're keeping the weight under your feet the same and the height of your hips the same. So nothing else is really moving except for the knees. And this starts to strengthen the outer parts of our hips, which provide a lot of support for our spine when we're twisting and turning. Try 2 more. And last time, bring your knees together, drop your hips down, and gently hug your knees in towards your chest, massaging out your lower back. You guys did wonderful there. So we're going to work into our first abdominal strengthening exercise next. So we just helped our spine from the back side of our body. We're going to work on our spine from the front side of our body through our abdominals next. So from here, you're going to draw your right knee in towards your chest and gently hug that knee in. If you feel tight or pinching, just hug it to the point where it feels comfortable for the right leg. And then we're going to extend and straighten the left leg out long. Now, if this feels like pressure on your low back, lift your left leg up a little bit higher. If it feels really easy, you're going to lower that left leg down towards the floor. From here, we switch our legs in space, stretch the left leg in. Switch our legs in space, stretch the right leg in. So as we gently switch, you want to imagine that I just put a big glass of water right onto your stomach, and we're trying not to spill a single drop. So knee in towards the chest, gently hugging in, pulling, feeling the opposition of our legs as we stretch. Now, if this feels particularly good, we're going to progress, but you always have the option to come back to this bent knee version. So to progress, you're going to straighten the right leg, hold up high on the ankle, and now switch the legs in a straight leg pattern. And so you get a little more stretch to your hamstring here. Again, this is totally optional. You can also hold behind your knees if that feels better for your body here. We go for 4, 3, 2, last time, hug both knees in and gently rock your spine from side to side. Now we're going to give our spine a little massage here by starting to actually rock ourselves up to a seated position. So maybe you roll a couple of times, and then when you feel comfortable and ready, come all the way up onto your seat and take a rest. Nice job there, guys. We're going to flip on over to an all fours position. So that setup looks like your hands right underneath your shoulders, knees right underneath your hips. Now, if you have any knee sensitivity, you can use that pillow from earlier in class to place it underneath your knees or roll up your mat a couple times. If you have wrist sensitivity, you can do this whole series on your forearm. Okay, it feels a little bit different there, but it's an okay modification to make if you need that. What we're going to do, and you guys can peek over in your mirror, is try and find a relatively flat back position. So my shoulder blades are down and together, my head is drawing out long through the top of my neck, and gently we're going to start to rock our spine forward and backwards. This is called a hip hinge. So if you notice, I'm keeping that flat back position. I'm just bending at my hips. And this is something I teach all of my patients who have lower back pain, because this is how we're able to bend over and move without stressing our back. We're actually using our hips to bend rather than using our lower back to bend. So just practice this a little bit here and maybe challenge yourself to make the movement a little bit bigger, dropping down into a plank, pushing back and stretching your hips. Drop down into a plank and press back, stretch your hips. I'm going to come up to the camera and take a quick peek at everybody's form because I know this movement can be a little bit funny. Nice, Sue. That looks wonderful. Good, Deborah. Unlock your elbows a little bit there. Emma, take your shoulders away from your ears. Good. Very nice form, guys. And keep your gaze down towards the floor. We'll try 2 more here. And last time, settle somewhere right in the middle. From this point, we're actually going to lower ourselves down to lay right onto our stomach. And if laying on your stomach right away feels like a lot of pressure for your lower back, you're going to put a pillow right underneath your hips here. Okay, so find that modification if you need it. And then we're going to place the hands flat on the mat underneath your shoulders. We're going to start to gently press up and arch the back. And so maybe your range of motion is small to start and it's just your upper back. Maybe you feel comfortable with this one and you can press up and extend your spine all the way to lift into your lower back. If you feel pinching in your low back, separate your feet a little bit wider than the mat. Turn your heels together, toes apart, and see how that feels. But work within what's comfortable for your body. I think this exercise is one of the best for your back if you have to spend a lot of time sitting. This is a full extension of our spine. So it's actually the opposite of the position we spend sitting all day. So it's lovely to create space in our spine and to maintain that flexibility. So try about 2 more here. Good. And last time, you're gonna press yourself all the way up. This time, actually sitting your hips back and letting your spine round a little bit. So this is different than that shifting front to back we did before. In this case, you can let your spine round, walk your fingertips forward, maybe even let your head rest down onto the mat. And we'll take one big deep breath here. And then we're gonna come up to a seated position. And for the purposes of cueing, I'd like if everybody can try and sit down on your left hip. So my legs are pointed off to the side. I'm sitting on my left hip. If that feels uncomfortable, here's another place where you can grab that pillow and prop your hips up and sit down onto the pillow. Okay, so we've done some movement bending our spine forward, bending our spine backwards, and twisting our spine. We're gonna move our spine sideways now. So that's sort of our last spinal movement. So I'd like everyone to take their left hand, place it down onto the mat. If you can now picture your rib cage, so the sides of your spine, you're gonna let your rib cage create a rainbow shape on the left side and then create a rainbow shape on the right side. So I'm using my left arm to drop my ribs down and stretch, and then press my ribs up and stretch on the right side. So it's a gentle sideways movement. And if this feels okay for your spine, you're gonna add a reach of your right arm over and then bring the right arm down. Right arm over, and you're pushing into the floor and lower down. So maybe imagine the right side of your rib cage like an accordion. You're opening it up and then lightly compressing, opening up through the side body and lightly compressing. We're gonna try just 3 more like this and work within what's comfortable for your body. Yours might be different than your neighbor's and different than mine, that's okay. And we're gonna stretch over and hold on this one. Now, very gently rotate, tap your right hand down towards the floor and then open it up to the ceiling. And we tap the right hand to the floor and open up. So I mentioned we did some rotation for our lower back earlier in class. This is rotation here for our upper back. So I know a couple of you had questions about that. This is a really nice one for your upper back. We'll try one more here and then open up. Good. Now, if you would like, and this is totally optional, we're gonna finish with a 10-second side plank. So that can look like 2 things. You can do your side plank up on your knees. You can do your side plank all the way up on your feet. So I'd like everyone to give it a try if you're comfortable. If not, you can stay seated down on the floor, but we'll do a little bit of strengthening for the core in this position. So when you guys are ready, choose either your knees or your feet. You're gonna reach that right arm up and over, push down into your left arm. We hold for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. We lower our hips down gently. Now, if you'd like to do a fun transition here, reach your hands back behind you and swivel your legs up and around. You can try any way to do that, but we are just now sitting down on our right hip. Again, if you need that pillow underneath your hips, go ahead and grab that here. We're gonna place our right hand down onto the floor and start with that little sag opening up the right side body, push away to open up the left side body. So we're arcing our shoulders and spine down and arcing the shoulder open. And it's very common, especially with this side bending motion, that one side is tighter than the other. For me, this one is a little bit tighter. We're gonna add in that left arm, reaching up and over and lowering down. I like to picture maybe a mermaid in this position. I would love if I was somewhere nice by the beach. And we're just reaching that arm up and over, gently swaying in the breeze. This time we're imagining that accordion on the left side of our spine, opening up, finding that stretch, and gently closing. We'll do 3 more here. You guys look great here. Just make sure that your shoulders are not hiking up by your ears. So you're keeping your neck long. Last one, we hold. Go ahead and add that rotation. So now we tap the left hand to the floor, open back up to the ceiling, tap it down. Now I say you're reaching the left arm to the floor. You may not be able to get to the floor, and that's okay. You're just rotating down as though you're reaching for the floor and coming back up. We'll try 2 more there. Beautiful, guys. And one more time. And come all the way up. We're going to prepare for that optional side plank. So again, I'll demonstrate down on the knees, but you can also do this up on your feet. So let's all set up into that strong position. We lift. Can you draw your front ribs in? Imagine your whole spine growing longer. We hold for 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1, and gently lower down. So to finish off our class today, before we get into our talks about ergonomics and questions, we're actually going to come to a standing position. I've had a couple of requests over the last few weeks. What are some stretches I can do in standing? So I have one for you today. So if everyone can come up to standing, I'm just going to adjust my camera to make sure that you guys can see me, maybe even a little bit more. Okay. So once you come to that standing position, find a position where your feet are right underneath your hips. They're about parallel to one another. And you can softly bend your knees and just rock your body front to back. And you want to find the position where your body weight is centered right over your feet. You want to feel grounded. So once you are in that centered position, you're going to reach your left arm down towards the floor and your right arm up to the ceiling. And you're bending slightly to that left side. Now, when I bend like this, notice how my hips sort of stick out to the right. I actually want to do the bending, but without moving my hips. So my hips are still, I'm just reaching up, almost like there's a little fence here that I'm trying to go up and over. And you can feel, hopefully, how by keeping your hips still, you actually create length in your spine. It's actually like a little tractioning for the lower back. We'll now try that right side. So you're going to lower your right hand down, lift your left arm up. Just like we were doing those little side bending motions before, you're pulling one rib in to open up the opposite rib, but still pushing the feet down into the floor. So it's as though your whole spine just grew an extra inch, even though we're stretching sideways. And we'll take one more deep breath here, and then let it go. Now, you guys can just find a comfortable seat on your mat. I want to show you something, and this is not something you have to follow along with. We went over it in our last class, but we did talk today about hip hinging. So I'm going to pull out my chair and just readjust here a tiny bit so you can see that. So we did that rocking front to back, and I mentioned that's how you bend without actually bending your lower back. So another good way to practice that using a chair is to walk your knees up against the chair and practice sitting your hips back, holding the front of the chair, or the back of the chair rather, and sit back and stand tall. So this is a really fun exercise that you can practice if you're in the middle of your workday and you have like 30 seconds to take a quick break to stretch your back. You've already got your desk chair or maybe a dining room chair, and you can practice just hinging your hips back, feeling that nice stretch, and standing up tall. So I went over that one last week, but I wanted to connect that with you guys about sort of why that being able to bend from your hips and not from your lower back is important. So a quick talk about ergonomics throughout your day. We learned a lot of stretches today, and I don't expect that every single day you do 30 minutes of lower back exercise. That would be wonderful, but I know that's probably not realistic for everyone. What I hope you take out of today is that you can do even just 1 or 2 minutes of stretching or strengthening for your back a couple times throughout the day, and breaking up your day is the best thing you can do. So our backs, they don't like to be still for long periods of time. So even if you had the most perfect ergonomic setup of all time, if you spend all day sitting in that position, our backs are going to be a little bit cranky. So what I recommend you do is take some of the stretches that you really liked from today, integrate them in little bits and pieces throughout your day. So maybe every hour or two, you try 1 or 2 stretches. And that little break throughout your day, it gives your back relief, it keeps you flexible, and hopefully it keeps you out of as much pain as you guys have been feeling in those work from home setups. So that being said, I want to try and answer some questions. I know that there are a couple in the chat already. So I'm going to pull those up and get started with a couple of those. So the first one, is there a list of exercises you featured today? So I don't publish a list, but like I said, this class does get recorded. This class also changes a little bit from week to week, so you'll see different stretches every week. So if you want to go back and look at previous weeks, you'll get a lot of good ideas of some different things you can try. So this is another really good question. Is it good to stretch or exercise in the morning and early, or is it better to wait a little bit?
There. I was doing a Zoom back meeting thing.
I'm gonna mute you guys there. Okay, so I think that your stretches in the morning are good to do, but just remember that in the morning when you're not warmed up, you might need to work in a smaller range of motion. I think it's actually a really good thing to get your back moving in the morning, but know that when you do these stretches and exercises in the morning, you might have to be a little bit more gentle compared to if you were to do them towards the end of the day. So definitely good to stretch and exercise early, but be gentle with your range of motion. Okay, so I have another question. I'm an athlete, and I was wondering if there's anything I could do to reduce cracking and gain a greater stretch because my spine is so flexible. So sometimes when our spine is too flexible, so we actually sort of think of a spectrum of our spine being really, really stiff or really, really flexible. And there's actually a sweet spot of somewhere right in the middle. So if you think of like a weightlifter's body versus a dancer's body, finding for the average population, you want to find something right in the middle. So if you tend to be more on that dancer side with a spine really flexible, you may need to work more on the strengthening exercises that we went over today rather than the stretching exercises. Whereas somebody more on that weightlifter, really, really stiff side, they're probably fairly strong, but they need to work more on the flexibility side. So we did a little bit of both today, and that's where certain exercises might benefit certain people more than others.
Ali, I just had a direct question from one of the attendees, which was,
yeah.
How many reps would you recommend for each of these exercises?
That's a great question. So it varies a little bit whether it's a stretching exercise or strengthening exercise. For the ones that are more stretching and flexibility oriented, you want to get at least 30 to 45 seconds of that exercise. For the ones that are a little bit more strength oriented, that varies a little bit. So I would say that generally speaking, you want to get about a minute or two of your strengthening exercises. And for most people, that looks like 20 or 30 repetitions, depending on the exercise. But that varies. If you're someone who's really strong and you've done this a lot before, you might need more repetitions. If this is really new for you, you might need to do a little bit less just so that your body can acclimate and adjust. I have, as the workday progresses, my shoulders creep up. What can I do to keep this in check? So a lot of times, and this is something we'll talk a little bit more about in my neck and shoulder class, but a lot of times when we sort of sit in this slumpy position, it restricts our breathing down into our belly. And so I talked about how that breathing is really important for our spine. So when we're breathing restricted here, our breathing starts to happen here. It's called accessory breathing. So it's a natural response of our body. The best thing you can do is try and fix your lower back posture. Give your rib cage more room to expand down low into your belly, and then you won't have as much movement up high in your shoulders. Okay, Let's see. I sometimes suffer from sciatica. What are do's and don'ts to avoid it? That's another great question. Sciatica comes from a lot of different sources, and so all sciatica is not the same. So I think when you do have something specific like sciatica, it's always worth checking in with your doctor first to get a better sense of why you're having that and what you might need to do. But generally speaking, sciatica benefits from movement as well. So a long period of sitting is one of the worst things you can do for a sciatica. Getting up, taking regular walks, as well as doing some gentle stretching should help to sort of manage your symptoms.